What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I take a deep look at all of the stats of every one of the weapons in Infinite Warfare. In today's episode, we're going to be having a look at one of the brand new guns, and that is the Trencher. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so hopping into the stats of the base Trencher, we've got a damage profile of 35, 30, 23, 19. This means it's going to be a 3 to 6 shot kill, and keep in mind there are only 2 other SMGs that are capable of a 3-shot kill. Our rate of fire is 600 rounds per minute, and our time to kill values range from 200 milliseconds up close within its 3-shot kill range, which is very fast, all the way down to 500 milliseconds, which is quite slow once you get into that 6-shot kill range. Our aim down sight time is not standard for SMGs, it actually follows suit with the assault rifles, as well as a bunch of other stats for this gun, which I'll be talking about today. Our sprint out time is standard for SMGs at 150 milliseconds. Our reload add time is quite slow at 2 seconds, therefore I would recommend dexterity with this gun. Our movement speed appears to be right around 96%, which is kind of like K-bar movement speed. It's not quite as slow as a lot of the other assault rifles, but it is slightly slower than the SMGs. It's unlikely that you'll actually notice this base movement speed difference, but the big difference that you will notice with the Trencher is when you're aiming down sight. You strafe very slow when you're aiming down sight. It seems to fall in line with assault rifles when you're aiming down sight and strafing, and as you can see here, comparing it to the MACTAV, neither of these have stock equipped, and you can see just how much faster the MACTAV is at strafing across this room. This is one of the big downsides of this gun, and I would say it's one of the things that keeps it somewhat balanced. Our magazine capacity with the Trencher is 32 rounds, and our total starting ammo, including the magazine that you spawn with in your gun, is going to be 96 rounds. Getting into our range values, this is where the Trencher really excels over a lot of the other SMGs. As you can see, it's got a great 3-shot kill potential for an SMG at just over 12 meters. Then we get a 4-shot kill range up to about 18 meters, and then just after 20 meters, that's when it drops off to a 6-shot kill. So as long as you're keeping yourself relatively close in your gunfights, this gun is going to excel. As for suppressor, that'll reduce your ranges by 25%, and rifle barrel will increase all of your ranges by 20%. Getting into the headshots for the Trencher has a standard headshot multiplier of 1.1, and essentially headshots are useless with this gun. At longer ranges, if you hit every single bullet, you will reduce the number of shots it takes to kill by 1, but that's really not practical in an actual gunfight, so therefore headshots are essentially useless unless you're playing tactical team deathmatch. Within its standard 3-shot kill range, it's going to be a 1-shot headshot. Getting into our hipfire, this is another area where the Trencher really falls down. As you can see here, in comparison to the other SMGs, there's no competition. The Trencher is absolutely terrible when it comes to hipfire against the other SMGs. So if you are going for those hipfire kills for camos, for instance, you definitely want to be running a laser sight. As for recoil, the Trencher is excellent. It doesn't really have too much recoil. It's quite controllable at most of the ranges that you'll be challenging with a Trencher. Obviously, you don't want to be challenging people across the map, but as long as you're keeping yourself within the ranges where this gun excels, you're going to have no problem whatsoever with recoil. As for grip, I did a 10-round recoil test here for you guys to compare the Trencher with and without grip, and as you can see there, it does tighten up your spread a little bit, but I would say grip is completely unnecessary on this gun. Now, one last thing I wanted to point out with the Trencher is one of the traits that it inherited from the assault rifles that's actually a really good trait, and that is idle sway. The Trencher has by far the best idle sway mechanics out of all of the SMGs. It's not even a competition. It takes a little time for the idle sway to even kick in the first place, and then once it does, there's very little idle sway to deal with. So that's going to wrap it up for the stats of the base Trencher. It's basically like an assault rifle SMG hybrid. It gets a lot of the downsides of the assault rifles, but it does have the best damage profile and range profile out of all of the SMGs in the game, and I would say it's a very solid gun. So now let's move into the variants, and currently all of the variants of this gun are in the Quartermaster collection, so they can only be one out of supply drops. You can't craft these with salvage. And first up, we have a common variant called the Infiltrator. And the Infiltrator just gives you stability, which reduces your view kick by 3%, makes it a little bit more accurate, and I would say this gun is just slightly better than the base. Getting into the rare variant, we have the Air Raid, and with Air Raid you get Talon as well as Creeper. And with Talon, kills while airborne will grant a small bonus to your payload meter. Now, I calculated this bonus to be right around 5 seconds, so every time you get a kill while jump shotting, you get an extra 5 seconds off of your payload charge time. As for Creeper, this just increases your movement speed when you're crouching by around 25%. Moving on to the legendary variant, this is actually a nuke variant called the Gamma. So obviously, you get the nuclear weapon perk, which allows you to get a deatomizer strike once you get a 25 kill streak with the weapon. And it also gives you focus, which is an excellent weapon perk, especially on this gun, because it practically eliminates idle sway. There's already very little idle sway on this gun, and once you pop that focus weapon perk on there, you barely notice your gun swaying at all when you're aiming down sight. So finally, we have the epic variant called the Blitzkrieg. And with the Blitzkrieg, we get a grenade launcher as well as steady. Now, the grenade launcher is just like the OSA's grenade launcher. It's an underbarrel grenade launcher. You hold the swap weapon button in order to bring out the grenade launcher. You only get one grenade per life, and it appears to be just as powerful as the OSA's grenade launcher. You essentially have to hit them right at their feet in order to get a kill on a full health enemy in core game modes. So I would say this is kind of a little bit gimmicky. I personally have this variant, and anytime I swap to that grenade launcher, I honestly feel like I'd just be better off shooting the guy with my gun. So for those of you guys that are worried that this is going to be crazy overpowered, it absolutely isn't by any means. In addition to that, we get steady, which reduces your hit spread by 20%, and I really like that with this weapon because, like I said earlier, this gun has a pretty terrible hit spread for an SMG, and therefore it needs all the help it can get in that area. And with that, we've covered all of the variants for the Trencher. As for which one's my favorite, I'm going to go with either the rare or the legendary variant. The air raid I actually have as well, and I use the air raid over the Blitzkrieg most of the time. I would rather use the air raid because I jump around a lot, and I like that I charge my payload meter up faster by getting those jump shot kills. And as for the legendary variant, I don't have it, but my girlfriend has it, and I've played with it, and that focus weapon perk is excellent on this gun because there's basically no idle sway. Plus, I like the fact that you can go for nukes with that. As for my preferred setup with this gun, like I said earlier, dexterity is pretty much a must-have for me because it reloads so slowly. And for attachments, I would say definitely quick draw, especially because this aims down sight like an assault rifle, so I'd say definitely quick draw. I also like running a sight on this. Now, I would say the iron sights aren't terrible, but I just really like running an elo sight on this gun. And also extended mags. That's my preferred setup. I don't like running this gun suppressed too often. I feel like I want to take advantage of as much of that 3-shot kill range as possible, and therefore rifled barrel is also a great choice. I just really don't like reducing that 3-shot kill range with a suppressor. So there we have it. That's going to wrap it up for today's gun guide. I'd like to know in the comments section below, which is your favorite variant of the Trencher, and also what is your preferred setup to use with this gun. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.